Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing okay. The sun is shining. It is absolutely a beautiful morning, which is good and always a bonus. Today we look into Mr. Francis Davidson Fraser, aka Mr. Mad Frankie Fraser, a gentleman that came from the same circles as the Richardsons, the Krays, George Cornell, and all those very serious guys. And he had an absolutely brutal, violent, vicious reputation, and for absolutely good reason. He was someone that did not mess about, someone you did not want to cross, and did absolutely whatever he thought he needed to do to get the job done and send the message, if you like. And we look at a couple of locations today. So the first one is Honor Oak and Camberwell Cemetery, which is where he was cremated. So his ashes were spread in a part of the cemetery where the Richardson family plot is, and where supposedly Charlie Richardson was laid to rest. So we visit that area and we have a look around, which is, it's interesting actually, because the cemetery has got a few characters, if you can call them characters, if that's the right word, laid to rest there. So we visit the cemetery and we have a look around. We also visit a couple of former locations of where there used to be nightclubs. So the first one is where he actually kidnapped an associate of the Krays, and the second one is where they shot him and tried to kill him in the 90s, that was pretty cool actually to see. We also pay a visit to Repton Boxing Club, which is in the East End, and that is a serious boxing club with some serious deep East End roots, and that's been around for a very long time, produced like champions and high level boxers and so on. But it's also where Frankie Fraser used to train and the Krays used to train as well. So we actually get inside and have a look around the boxing club, and they've got some really cool photos on the walls inside the club. So that was actually really cool to see. So I do hope you enjoy the video, guys. As always, if you could please like and subscribe, which is absolutely free, it would really mean a lot, and it helps the channel grow. And as always, please leave your comments down below. We are going to get a bit more info on Mr. Mad Frankie Fraser. Frankie Davidson Fraser was born on the 13th of December 1923. He was the youngest of 5 kids, and the family struggled quite a lot financially, especially in his very young years. When he was 5 years old, the family actually moved to London's Elephant and Castle area, and you could say, although his mum and dad were your typical normal hard-working family, if you like, or parents, it didn't take long for Frankie to start going down a different road. When he was 13, he got sent to an approved school for stealing cigarettes, and slowly after that, as time passed and he grew up, he started to get involved in lots of different crimes. He started to make a name for himself as an enforcer and a strongman, and in the 40s and 50s he really started to push that, notably working for Gangster Billy Hill. And during that time he also ran his own sort of side hustle, if you like. He used to run and operate slot machines and gaming machines at different locations, and in the mid-50s he was actually sentenced to 7 years in prison, along with Bobby Warren, for ambushing and almost killing gangster Jack Spot Comer. And when he came out of prison from that sentence, he started to work for the Richardson brothers. And I suppose if you didn't know Frankie Fraser and you walked past him, he wasn't maybe the most initially intimidating physically type of guy. He was about 5'4", and Charlie Richardson even went as far as to describe him as mild-mannered with a slight temper, which is a little bit concerning if you think about it. But by the time the 60s rolled round, he had absolutely built up a completely violent and absolute brutal reputation. He attempted to pull out nightclub owner Benny Coulson's teeth with a pair of pliers. So I think the owner of the club, Benny, he crossed the Richardsons, some money was owed, and it all went a little bit wrong. And Frankie attempted to pull his teeth out with a pair of pliers. And he also kidnapped, with some other guys, an associate of the Krays, Eric Mason, and this was in Mayfair's Berkeley Square outside the Aster Club. So I think they did kidnap him, but a bit of a struggle initially occurred because he resisted, and off the back of that, Frankie just hit him in the head with a hammer and got the hammer stuck in his head. And a few hours later, they literally dumped his body outside a London hospital, and all he had on was a pair of his underpants and a blanket, and Mason was barely alive. Frankie also spent pretty much more than half his life, well over 40 years, in the UK prison system. And the type of gentleman, if you like, that Frankie was, you can imagine that wasn't the smoothest, easiest process or time, if you like. He had his fair share of violent altercations with his fellow prisoners and prison officers. During that time, he assaulted several prison governors, as well as he spat at and tried to attack a prison executioner. And he also led the Parkhurst prison riots, which was on the Isle of Wight. So because of all that, he spent a great deal of time in solitary confinement on his own. And that's got to be, listen, I'm not saying he was in a good mindset for the type of guy he was, not at all, but that must be really, really hard. That must really mess you up to a point. And even when he came out of prison, he was shot and they tried to assassinate him in 1991 outside a Farringdon nightclub. And when the police turned up and tried to question him, he just sort of brushed it off as if it was nothing and said, I don't know what you're talking about. And years later, he would go on to comment on that particular incident as simply being an occupational hazard and not a big deal. It was just part of the world he was in. Like many other figures from his world all that time, he also did become a bit of a celebrity, if celebrity is the right word. He appeared in several programs, a couple of films, and he also wrote and released a couple of autobiographies, which were huge sellers. Something else he did, which I thought was pretty different and enterprising, if you like. He actually ran like a tour of the East End. So he would charge a fee, and then you would be driven around the East End, and he would take you past places like the Blind Beggar Pub or the former locations of the scrapyards that the Richardsons used to run out of, and he would give you a first-hand lowdown of what actually went on at these locations. So, not trying to glamorise this at all, it would be an absolutely scary world to be involved in any way, shape or form, but to actually get a first-hand account from someone that was involved, that would be pretty interesting, actually. Definitely. His later years weren't as smooth either. He spent a great deal, well, the last few years of his life he spent in residential care homes, and even then he had his share of problems or situations. He was actually served an ASBO when he was 89 years old, and I think he got into a dispute with a fellow care home resident. Nothing to do, as far as I'm aware, with anything to do with his previous world. They just got into a bit of a disagreement, and off the back of that he was actually issued an ASBO. So even in his very late years he was still as strong-willed and as strong-minded as if you like, as he was back in the day. And in 2014 his health started to take a bit of a turn for the worse, and he needed surgery, and he went into theatre and complications arose, and he was ultimately placed in a coma, and the family made the decision to switch his life support off, and he passed away on the 26th of November 2014. So apparently Frankie Fraser's ashes, when he was cremated, were scattered in this area, and that's how the family wanted it. And just here we've got Freddie Mills's final resting place, and also the Richardson family plot, and also George Cornell was laid to rest just over there, which we've all done videos on, guys. But apparently, as I said, when Freddie was cremated, his ashes were scattered around here in this area. Hey guys, so we are coming up to Berkeley Square in Mayfair, and it is the former location of the Aster Club, which is where Frankie Fraser kidnapped Eric Mason and then ended up hitting him in the head with a hammer or a hatchet. So the club is no longer there, it's been redeveloped, but we're going to have a look around the square and where the club used to be. So the club used to be here on the corner of Fitzmaurice Place and Berkeley Square. So it used to be on the corner here. So it would have been outside here somewhere. That Frankie Fraser tried to kidnap him. So this is the famous Repton Boxing Club, where Frankie Fraser and the Krays boxed or trained in the 50s. No guts, no glory. So we are at the world famous Repton Gym. And this is all where it went down. And there is Frankie Fraser, the man himself. And then just behind here, there is a picture of the Krays. Used to train. So this is where the Krays Frankie Fraser and the others used to come and train. No guts, no glory. So this is the building on our left, which is a former location of the Turnmills Club, where Frankie Fraser was shot in the head. Number 63. So the nightclub used to be here before it was demolished. And it would have been along here on the street where Frankie was shot in the head. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. As I said before, if you could please like and subscribe, that would be a big help and really appreciated. Let me know your thoughts, guys, if you've done a bit of research, if you've been to the boxing club inside, had a look around, or if you're old enough and remember the Aster Club or the other nightclub he was shot outside of, let me know as well. And if there's any other people or places you want me to visit and have a look at and make a video on, let me know in the comments below. I have got a whole list of people and places I'm trying to work through, but any ideas would be appreciated. And like I said guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you on the next one.